So, again, this is, I think, part 8. We're picking up on going from the end from the beginning, teaching the end from the beginning, going from Bereshit chapter 11 back to 1, and we're just getting close to being finished. We start from last. Let's pick back up a little bit from chapter 3. We left off at chapter 3 in the last one. We just finished up the. I've explained that the Hawa or Eve is the type of the woman. And the curse is being, that we're going in reverse. Everything's being undone. We're being restored to Yahushua, becoming the curse for us. All these curses are being lifted. Okay? I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and he will crush your head, and you will crush his heel. Speaking to Satan, out of the woman, he said, I'll greatly increase your sorrow and your conception of seed. You shall bring forth seed or offspring or children in pain, and your desire will be for your husband. Now, all that gets reversed. Of course, physically, women are going to give birth. They have to stretch those bodies out. It's going to be painful. I'm not saying that, but I'm teaching this spiritually. As we grow, as we as the bride, or the woman, or the Hawa in this soul level, Dreiss level interpretation, greatly increasing our strong conception and bringing forth seed of the word. It's not going to struggle to speak to people. All of a sudden, people will be more anxious to hear it. They'll be more attentive to it. The seed of what we do will go forth and spread even farther. So we as the Hawa or the woman or the bride have the same analogy, to where the sorrow of our conception, the sorrow is lifted, the pain of conception is released. Well, we won't have to bring forth the seed of our womb or the living waters. Remember, it said, if you will receive the Ruach out of your belly, your womb will flow living waters. If you take it into the Greek and check it out, the belly can mean the womb. That giving birth of the living waters, the seed of the word. And desire will be for your husband, and he does rule over you. That's even symbolic. As we surrender, that's a blessing. Yahushua is our husband, and our desire is then for him, and we'd love for him to rule over us. You see, there's a shadow picture in everything in the Word. Now, the curses are reversing. As we go from chapter 12 on, with Abraham, it's blessing him. Knows one blessing will lay upon another blessing will lay upon another blessing. This is the undoing of the cursing part of the Torah. Until we get into the statutes and judgment, I'm talking about the pre-Moshe Torah, okay? Now, this gets interesting. When you have discernment, when you have the Ruach abiding in you, Satan becomes no longer, even though we don't physically see him. Don't get me wrong there, but we're aware of his works now. Let me read this, and I'm going to back this up. This is wonderful. Again, we're going in reverse now of chapter 3. The Malachim said to the Nachash, the whisperer, Satan, the snake, he said, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock and more than every beast of the field. Now, Satan's not in covenant. He ain't being undone his curse. Because he is still cursed. Okay? And on your belly you will go, and dust you'll eat all the days of your life. So, now that's being undone on our side. Satan's still cursed, but now we see him. He's not slinking along as a snake. We're going back to be able to see that four-faced cherub and know how to deal with him more. Of course, you don't physically see him. There's more awareness of his tricks. And as we're discerning, we're having discernment of right and wrong, good and evil, clean and clean, light and darkness now. So we're aware of Satan. Before he was invisible, that snake slithering through the grass. Man is grass. Isaiah 40. Okay, that's been reversed now. Now let's pick up another segment here. Okay, let's pick up verse 6. The woman saw, or the bride saw, the tree was good for food. Those are going to start walking by the Ruach and not the flesh. This is the first sign that Eve walked by the flesh. The lust of the pride of life, vanity, pride, desire, lust, covetousness. She coveted the fruit. Every single commandment was broken in one fell swoop. She walked by the flesh and in the flesh in this verse. And again, as we are going backwards as the bride being reversed, all of the curses and the walking by the flesh are detectable now. We can differentiate and discern what we're doing now. I'll read it and we'll back it up in reverse. So the woman saw that the tree was good for food. And the tree wasn't Satan. They say, well, that's where she made love to Satan. That comes from some kind of satanic Bible somewhere, some extra Bible book. I don't know, it's that blankety blank Enoch and that witchcraft and angel worship. Enoch is angel worship. I mean, keep it in mind. It's a bunch of, there's pockets of truth, but it's garbage, okay? Be careful. Yahuwah never ordained a solar calendar, and this is Enoch's the truth, and Enoch's a solar calendar. You see, just throw it out. There's something wrong in these extra books, throw them out. The tree was desirable to make one wise. This broke every commandment in one swell swoop. She took the fruit, she coveted the fruit, because it was forbidden to be eaten, so she stole it and coveted the food, okay? And she didn't eat. She gluttoned herself. She also gave it to her husband, and he did eat. Now the eyes of both of them were opened to the laws of sin and death. Their eyes were open to the laws of sin and death. They had the law of the Spirit of life. Now they're opened to the laws of sin and death. And knew that they were naked, spiritually and physically, of course. And they sewed fig leaves together and made loin coverings for themselves. So they heard the voice of Yahuwah walking about in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife. See, the father hadn't separated himself from them until he got their confessions. And Adam and Chawah hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah, Elohim, among the trees of the garden. So Yahuwah Elohim, he called unto Adam and said, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. And Yahuwah said, who made you? Who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of that tree which I commanded you not to eat? And the man said, the woman whom you gave me is with me. She gave that tree and I did eat. Look, let's reverse this. We repented, we've been cleansed of eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or the laws of sin and death. We're being brought back by Yahuwah to redeem us from the curse. It's turning around. We have repented of eating that tree. We're going back. Our eyes are closed. In a way, we still have to be discerning, but our eyes are closed to the laws of sin and death. There's Yahushua taught this as far as the what's the word? The eye is the light of the lamp of the soul. The eye, how did he word it? If the eye is good, the whole body is good. If the eye is bad, the whole body is bad. So the light, or the deceptive light of the laws of sin and death have been closed off to us, so we have the light of our eyes back into the law of spirit of life. And again, first section, we repented of breaking the entirety of the commandments. Eve doing this, the bride doing this, was a type of the entirety of the spirit intent of the commandments in his perfect Torah. You know, she coveted, she desired, she lied, she deceived her husband, she had vanity, pride. I mean, basically, if you can break this down into all the commandments. So that's another thing that's now being reversed. So Nechesh said to the woman back in verse 4, you will not certainly die. Okay? Because that's how he tricked her. So now, we've been purchased back. We're not under the laws of sin and death. We have not yet attained immortal life, but we are not under the laws of sin and death, the 24-hour death of Adam. Adam died within 24 hours. So that's been redeemed in Yahushua. We abide in his resurrected life, his justification now. We're not bound by the laws of sin and death. So in this reverse, so you will not die in that 24-hour period. So we reverse from that. And now, back in chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, the crafty snake, they're talking about the two trees. So we make the decision to go back and reverse what we have done by the atoning slaughter of the Son, to going back to search for the tree of... We haven't attained it yet, we haven't eaten of it, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil has been backed up. Okay? And we're going to get into our marriage with Yahushua in the sod/dresh level 2. Now let's read through Bereshit chapter 2. And we're going to skip the 7th day because I want to cover the 7th day, because they never should have broken up the chapter before the 7th day. So let's just pick up verse 4. We'll pick up chapter 2, verse 4, and read through it, and we'll back up a little bit on the symbolism of it, okay? Verse sheet, Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. These are the births of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahuwah Elohim made the heavens and the earth. And no shrub of the field was yet upon the earth. No plant of the field had yet sprung up. For Yahuwah Elohim had not yet sent rain upon the earth. There was no man to till the ground yet. Again, this is a capsulation of the 7 days of going through it. He's picking up right here after the plants were put in the ground as a seed, but nothing has grown. Man hadn't been made yet. Remember, the beasts come later. When do the plants come? So it's basically starting on that particular day when the plants are made, but yet not sprouted. This is not a continuation of the 7th day. It's a recap. Okay? So Elohim, again, this is the 6th day now. And mist went up from the earth and watered the entire surface of the ground. Yahuwah Elohim, he planted the garden of Eden in Eden to the east. There he put the man to whom he had formed. And out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim, he made every tree to grow that was pleasant to the sight and good for food. But the tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was there too. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it was divided and had become 4 riverheads. That's where you're getting this Pardes teaching. The Peshat, Remez, Derash, and Sod. There's a river of life in the Garden of Eden which leads right by the tree of life. He is the water that saves you. If you drink of this water, you'll never thirst again. You'll live forever. You see? He is the water. He is the tree. He is the bread of life. Water, bread, tree. Water, bread, tree. He's symbolically all 3. And these are the 4 riverheads. To get back to that water of life, the 4 riverheads went out of Eden, and that's how we're going back. And again, don't go on the internet and look up the Jewish religion parties. They'll take you down some dark mysticism paths. You know, it's almost the occult if you study some of that. Some of that's so freaky that it's just like I've accidentally fallen into a Menasher witch site or something. You know, it's pretty dark, so be very careful of the Jewish stuff. So these are the 4 Pardes rivers, because that's what it means. It's basically the river, the Garden of Pardes. You can even rename it to the Garden of Pardes, the acronym for the 4 levels. And out of the ground Yahuwah made every tree to grow that was pleasant for sight and good for food. And the tree of life was in the midst of the garden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was there also. Pardon me. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And there it was divided and became 4 riverheads. And gold was in the land. That's the so. That's what you're getting now. Direction. So gold was in the land, and bdellium was there, and the shoham stone. The name of the second river was Gihon, and that one surrounds the entire land of Cush. And Gihon is probably the Drash, more than likely. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. The one goes towards the east of Ashur, and that's probably the Remez. Now, I don't study Judaism to know how they interpret it. And the fourth river is Euphrates, which is the allegory. Euphrates represents the Gentile nations. You know, that's the border wall of the Gentiles. So that's the carnal and literal interpretation of the Euphrates River. So Yahuwah Elohim, he took the man and he put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. And Elohim commanded the man, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in the Yom, the day that you eat of it, you are going to die. So Yahuwah Elohim said, it's not good for man to be alone. I shall make him an helper as his counterpart. For out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim, he formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and he brought them to the man to see what he would name them.